Hey guys, Bobby Rio here with Rob Judge.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And we'd like to welcome you to the 3 Steps to Infatuation special training. Now, this is a sort of spur-of-the-moment training that Rob and I decided to put together for you, sort of in preparation for our upcoming Unlock the Scrambler live seminar that we're going to be doing next month. We were comparing notes and talking about some issues that some of our private coaching clients were running into, and a lot of it was overlapping. And we decided that we wanted to put together this training. Really, what this training is going to be about and what you're going to learn is how to create that state of infatuation in a girl. Because what we find is a lot of guys had been asking us, hey, I'm dating this girl, or I'm seeing these girls, and I never really feel like that I have them, right? I feel like maybe they're settling for me. I feel like that they're the ones in control of the relationship. And I want to get to that point where I'm in control, where I know I have her, right? Where she's obsessed with me. And that's what we're going to be covering in this training.
Yeah, and I'm going to take this a step further, Bobby. I'm going to say to any guy listening, I know you have a girl in mind. I know that when Bobby says, when Bobby was describing that situation, you were probably thinking, oh, this is about Amanda, or this is about Lisa, or whoever your girl is. I mean, I know who my girl is. Bobby, you probably know who your girl is. And I'm going to take this a step further and say, you don't want to send another text. You don't want to go on social media and even like another one of our social media posts until you listen to what we have to say. Because the margin for error with that girl that you really like sometimes can be so slim, and you don't want to lose her. You don't want to let it slip away because you made some sort of tactical mistake that you could have avoided.
Yeah, definitely. As Rob said, it's really easy to fuck this up, unfortunately, right? Especially when we are really into a girl. That's when it's the easiest to make those critical mistakes that kind of just plunge her interest in you. So, is this for you? Who's this training specifically for? Well, if you were, like we said, dating a girl, or if you've ever dated a girl and you felt like she was settling for you, if you felt like you had to walk on eggshells around her, right? That you always had to keep your guard up. You were in that like hamster wheel, always worried that you were going to lose her attraction, and like you never felt like you had the upper hand in the relationship. You could never relax and enjoy it because you always felt like she was one false move from slipping away. Then this is for you. This is for you if you tend to be in a situation where girls like you at first, right? They're into you. They seem really attracted to you, but sooner or later, relatively, most of the time even sooner, they start to lose interest in you, and they even start to lose respect for you.
Yeah, and I've even seen it where guys will realize that the girl has actually regrets hooking up with them, or regrets even, going on a date with them. I mean, I know myself, back in the day, I definitely felt that, where I would, a girl would think I was cool. She would like me. Sometimes she would go on a date with me. Sometimes we'd make out. Sometimes I even slept with some of these girls. But later on, I screwed something up. I did something stupid because of the fact that I actually liked her. And I could just sense that it was almost like that, like she regretted it. And I knew she was probably telling her girlfriends, or even that next guy that she was sleeping with, about, this creepy guy or this weird guy who seemed kind of cool at first, but then he did XYZ thing, and she realized, oh my God, this guy is not the cool guy that I went on a date with, or made out with, or slept with. So you definitely don't want to be the guy that she ends up regretting.
Yeah, it's particularly dangerous in a social circle. I used to work with a few girls, and I remember this guy, Frank, who everybody thought he was kind of cool and stuff. And then he hooked up with this girl that we worked with, Trisha. And Trisha wasn't even that good looking. She was like average, pretty face, kind of chubby. And at first everybody was like, oh, cool, Frank. And then he did every mistake in the book, right? Like he just messed it all up. And Trisha just told everybody, she was just like, oh, Frank keeps calling me, Frank, And his social value just plummeted, and he never recovered from it. I worked with a guy for another 2 years, and this was a situation where it was so easy to get laid, and he was just nobody would sleep with him. So you really want to be careful, especially in the social situations where you don't mess this up. It's also for you, if you're nice, and girls see you as nice, but you're continually getting that, like, I just don't feel it speech.
Or, I mean, dude, I'll take it even a step further. I don't think girls even give that speech anymore. I feel like nowadays girls will just ghost you. They don't even give you the decency of telling you, oh, I need to see you like a brother, or let's just be friends. I feel like the let's just be friends thing, that died out with I don't know, 2010 or something. But it's like these days, you don't even get a text back. It's just like you don't even exist.
You know, as you're saying that, I'm kind of thinking why that's probably the case. And it's probably because girls realize that they can't give the let's just be friends speech, because guys will take it literally, and they'll be on, you know, now with Facebook and all the ways to connect, the guy will keep trying to be her friend. So girls probably realize that they can't do that anymore. Back in the day, you can give the let's just be friends speech and just never talk to the guy. And now it's like the guy's probably like hitting him up like, hey, you want to go for ice cream? We said we're going to be friends. So it's easier.
Yeah, it's easy to like block him on Facebook and, you know, Instagram, and, you know, just block his number or just not respond to him anymore. Yeah, and that sucks to really be into a girl and then go to check her Facebook, and then suddenly it's like, wait, did she delete her Facebook? What's going on? And then you realize, no, she's just blocking me.
Yeah, I get a handful of clients who've been blocked, and it's really tough. It's a tough place to recover from when you've been blocked. You know, that's not an easy place. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to learn, because like I said, we're going to keep this short, right? We're going to try to keep this under an hour. We're going to go through a lot of information, but we really want to make this something that you can review, something you can remember, so that when you're with that girl, you have this in mind. And it's very simple what we're going to be talking about, because what Rob and I discovered was that there are really just 3 elements that need to be in place. And that when these 3 elements are in place, a girl can't help but become infatuated with you. She becomes obsessed with you. The dangerous part of it is that there's a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of, you know, infatuation extinguishers, infatuation killers. And chances are you're making a lot of them without even realizing it, which is one of the main reasons Rob said that you really want to hold off contacting that girl you're into until you watch this, because some of these are probably going to shock you a little bit. In addition to that, we're going to teach you some specific emotional triggers that you can tap into. And these are triggers that are already there, that you just have to attach them to you, which makes it way easier than you think.
And the best part about this is that these triggers, they're things that are already in place. There are things that are already going on that you don't even realize you can tap into and exploit this enormous potential for sexual tension, for flirting, for teasing, for really getting her to chase you. And they already exist. So this is really good news for every guy listening. If you've ever even talked to this girl, these triggers are already in place. So you definitely want to listen to what we're going to explain in terms of how you could use those triggers to their maximum potential.
Yes. And so, you know, what happens when you do this? And we've now, Rob and I have been publicly teaching the Scrambler since 2014. So we're at 3 years now of teaching it. Before we started teaching it publicly, we had been teaching it to a private, a handful of our high-paying private customers. But over the 3 years that we've been teaching it publicly, the amount of testimonials that we've gotten, the amount of emails that Rob and I get is crazy. Even when you browse, right, you Google the Scrambler or Unlocker, like there's guys just telling their war stories all over the internet, guys that have used this. And what you start noticing happens, and one of the things is that, girls stop blowing you off. They actually start putting a lot of effort in. They start texting you more. They start chasing you, which is a completely different feeling. It's the kind of feeling that, and guys always describe it as they just kind of wake up one day and this like weight is off their shoulders, and they're like, wait a minute, like I'm in control now. I'm like the hot chick. Like, this is weird. It's weird, but it's fun. I know you get these kind of emails too, right? From guys who've used this stuff to, a lot of guys tend to use it to bang female friends. That seems to be a hot button of the testimonials I get, is guys who put it into action to sleep with a female friend or a coworker. And it's great when you have this coworker that you've been having a crush on, and now she's drooling over you. She's obsessed with you.
Yeah, that seems to be a big one. Or the younger girls. I have a couple of clients who, they're older guys, and they had a crush on. I remember specifically one guy. It was his trainer. He was going to her for she was like giving him a diet plan, that kind of thing, and he had this huge crush on her, and he didn't really know how to bridge that gap, and this is how to do it. If you have any sort of contact with this girl, even if it's a professional contact, even if she's a barista at Starbucks, it doesn't matter. If you can get in front of that girl, you can get that girl.
Yeah, a lot of the clients that I work with tend to be, some of the guys are older, and a lot of them, they are in those situations, like you said, dance instructor, their salsa teacher, anywhere where you have an ongoing interaction with the girl. It works really well, but the stuff we're going to be going over also works if you just meet a girl and you're dating her, and you notice that, like, hey, she's into you, she's willing to go out with you, but she just doesn't have that fire for you that you see girls have for other guys. That's what this stuff is really, really good for. This webinar is exclusively to our email list. So if you're listening to this, you already know who we are. You don't need to kind of hear too much about it. Instead, though, what I wanted to kind of mention was a lot of guys ask me on coaching calls, how did you figure this out? One of the things that we both, we literally, when we do coaching calls, we get this over and over again when we're walking through a call with somebody and they're telling about how they got obsessed with the girl. And there's always a point where the guy will go, dude, she used the scrambler on me. He starts really everything we're teaching. He's like, holy shit, that's what she did to me. Holy shit, and I say, yeah, like that, because we're tapping into psychology that's already there. Another point, and this kind of goes with what you're saying, is that a lot, it's very unnoticed, right? And the thing is that a lot of times that, when a girl's doing this to you, she doesn't know it. And I remember right after that situation where the girl had done, used the scrambler on me, so to speak. And I was like all fucked up in the head. I had moved on and started dating this girl, Nicole. And Nicole was like, we slept together. She was, really fun girl, really like, we had really, really sexual chemistry, everything. But mentally, I just wasn't there, right? Mentally, I was still like kind of infatuated with that other girl and so I'm hanging out with Nicole, I'm going through the motions, I'm doing, it's like, it's okay, whatever. Eventually it ends, right? And the whole time in my mind, it was just this relationship with this girl that went okay and it ended. And like a few months after I stopped talking to Nicole, I run into her roommate. And her roommate goes, just leave her alone. Like you've done nothing but scramble her brain for the past few months. And I was like, I didn't even realize what I was doing, right? So a lot of guys, when a girl's doing this to you, she doesn't know what she's doing. She's just doing certain things. I didn't know what I was doing, but the minute that girl said the word scrambling her brain, I go, you're on to something with this scrambling thing. And
yes.
That's kind of how we came up with the name, the Scrambler. Rob and I, like I said, we started working together because we have that different set of skills. I'm really good at going after that female friend, the girl I work with, the girl in my social circle. Rob's really good with the new girls through bars and clubs, more recently through apps like Tinder. So we combined the psychology and we really created something dynamic that I want to get into.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, I feel like that, like, it's a perfect pairing because you're like sort of like the mob boss. You're like the guy who kind of sees all the different social connections, and I'm more like just like kind of the assassin guy, So it really worked out well because Bobby he can really see this bigger picture, whereas I was good at, implementing specific things, using, tactics and that kind of thing to get a result. Whereas Bobby, and you're gonna hear his expertise throughout this podcast, but he is just so good at seeing this bigger picture and to kind of see how all the different, dots connect to essentially scramble her brain.
Yeah. So, one of the things, and this section that I want to go through now is something that you may want to listen to over and over and over again, because a lot of this stuff is going to be very, very counterintuitive. These are going to be the big mistakes. These are the things we want to warn you of. And as many times as you may have heard these mistakes, you will make them again. Trust me, unless you are conscious of this, unless you do everything in your power to reverse it, if you get lazy about this, you will make these mistakes again. I know because I do coaching calls with guys. We get off the phone, and the next time I talk to them, they recount what happened, and I say, what didn't you... And they go, I know I should have reviewed. So write this stuff down, review it, because if you don't keep this in your head, if you're not consciously thinking about these mistakes we're about to go over, you will make them over and over again.
All right, Bobby, so let's look at it this way. Let's examine what exactly happens when a guy likes a girl and then he actually gets a date with her. And then let's take it a step further, or let's take it to its unfortunate conclusion. Why do most guys blow it? And I want to make a distinction between when girls settle for you versus when a girl is infatuated for you. And I know as guys, whether you want to admit it or not, we've all settled at some point. I know I have. Bobby, I know you have. It's sort of the blooper reel of our love and sex life. At some point, we weren't super excited to be hooking up with a girl, to even maybe even dating a girl, but there was nothing better, or it just seemed like a good idea at the time, so we kind of did it. What's that joke? It's like kind of like riding a moped. Settling for a girl is like riding a moped. It's fun until your friends see you doing it, or whatever. So it's kind of like that. And what you have to understand, though, is that sometimes when we explain, and I'm going to give you, or I'm going to list out what the infatuation killers are, but as I'm going through this list, there might have been situations where you made one of these mistakes and you still maybe got the girl. And I always have guys or coaching clients, some kind of contrarians, who are like, oh, I did that thing, but I still got the girl. And you may have gotten her, but she was settling for you. It was the exact same thing as when you settled for that chubby girl when you were on vacation and you thought your friends weren't looking, So that's what I want you to keep in mind, is that you don't want to be the guy that a girl is just settling for, because not only is it a weak sort of, the attraction is weak, but also it just, you want to give her that experience of chasing you, of liking you, of wanting to hear from you. I mean, you like this girl a lot. You want her to like you a lot, because that's the foundation of the best relationships. The best relationships I've been in is when I've been super attracted to a girl and she's also been super attracted to me. So let's examine some of these infatuation elements.
Yeah, one other thing, real quick, on the whole. What with the settling, and one of the reasons you don't. Some guys might, well, who cares? If she's settling for me, who cares? Like, I'm still banging her. Here's why it's bad, because in your mind, one way I always say it is like we always want to feel like we're getting the deal. And if you feel like you're getting the deal and you're like, she's better than me, I'm lucking out, whatever, she's settling, who cares? The problem is that the minute some other guy comes along who is able to capture her attention, able to do all the things we're about to go over, she's gone, right? She's gone. Like, some guy on, I've had guys, I was actually my dad's friend. I was at a barbecue. His wife of like 10 years left him for some like guy she met. It was her crush from like middle school, hit her up on Facebook. She left a 10-year marriage just, because some other guy came along. Women nowadays, they will leave you if it's not going, it's not like it was, we talked about it in another one of our webinars together, Rob, that, years ago, women didn't have as many options. So you can get by with a girl who is settling for you. And, maybe you knock her up, you get her pregnant. Now she can't leave. You feel lucky. But nowadays, those, women work now. They can, divorce is, like, there's nothing tying a woman to you anymore. So if she doesn't feel that infatuation for you, some other guy will steal her away.
Absolutely. And even to take this a step further is that when she's settling for you, she's gonna like just have sex with you every once in a while. It's gonna be very vanilla sex. And just to, as you were telling your story, Bobby, it reminded me of this girl that I met on Tinder. Really, really attractive girl. She showed up. We went to the bar down the street from me. We had a drink. It was very easy. She came right back to my house and we had amazing sex. And it was to the point that I couldn't believe like how kinky and crazy this girl was, the things this girl wanted to do. I mean, I was down for it, but I was kind of like, wow, this girl really put her A game, I was like, well, what? I wish I had been keeping up my cardio, because it was an amazing night, but it was definitely a long night. And then later on, she had told me that she had a boyfriend and he did something, and it was like a minor thing. It was like he did something kind of stupid, or but it wasn't like that big of a deal. And that night she broke up with him, and she did all that stuff with me that she never did with her ex-boyfriend, because of the fact that she felt like she was just settling for him, and she was just waiting for an out, waiting for him to make some small mistake. Like, I forget what it was, but it was so fucking stupid. And then she ended up breaking up with him and, matching with me on Tinder, coming right back to my place, and then just having this wild, amazing sex with me and she was laughing about it to me. She's like, oh yeah, I never did any of this stuff with my ex-boyfriend who she dated for 2 years. So she dates this guy for 2 years, doesn't do anything with him, and then, looks for an excuse to break up with him, breaks up with him, and then goes out with, with a guy like me or not, or some other guy, and does all the stuff, all the sexual stuff this guy probably would have loved to have done with her, and she does that with me. So you definitely don't want to lose a girl like that, because that really fucking sucks.
Let's move into the infatuation killers. And like I said, some of these you may be like, I kind of know that, but you really pay attention, listen to what Rob and I are saying, because these are killers, right? And don't have the immediate knee-jerk reaction to say, I don't do that, or that's not me, or that's not. Just really pay attention, because a lot of times when I'm coaching a guy, he'll say, I didn't really make any mistakes with her. And then I say, okay, let's dig in a little bit. And then once we dig in, we start identifying exactly where he did kill the infatuation with these exact mistakes, even though in his mind, from his perspective, he wasn't making any of them. A lot of times you are, and that's why you want to see things from multiple perspectives, and that's what we're going to go through now. So, Rob, you want to move into the infatuation killers?
Yeah, I have our tried and true list right here. So, number one is predictability. It may sound kind of obvious, but we're going to explain that more in a moment. So, predictability is number one. Number two is lack of physical intimacy. And obviously that's just a nice way of saying lack of making a move, lack of actually touching the girl, making out with her, being, a little bit sexually aggressive. Number three, she has the power in the relationship. And again, we're going to get into that much more detail. But for now, just understand that if she has the power in the relationship, that is going to kill her infatuation with you. That's an infatuation extinguisher, as me and Bobby like to say. Number four, that you make her be the man. And that's similar to giving her the power, but that has its own, that's a problem all on its own. If she feels like she's the masculine one in the relationship, and the relationship doesn't necessarily need to be a boyfriend, girlfriend. Even like I said, it could be a barista at Starbucks. But if you're making her do the work that you should be doing as a man, she's going to lose. Not only is she going to lose infatuation for you, you're making it impossible for her to ever be infatuated with you in the first place. So number five, being won over too easily. And again, this is one of those sort of sneaky mistakes a lot of guys don't think they're making. But if you're letting a girl win you over too easily, if you're giving her your attention, your validation, your acceptance, your approval too easily, and you're not making her work for it, you're killing any chance that you had with that girl. The next one here, that you're not being scarce enough. Again, this is like the cousin of being won over too early or being won over too easily, but it's a problem it's a problem on its own that a lot of guys make, is that if you're too available, if you're, very quick to answer her text every single time, if you're not making yourself scarce, she's not going to value your time. She's not going to value you, and you're making it impossible for her to be infatuated with you. And finally, this is, one that is very all-encompassing, but again, it's a mistake that guys make all the time, is neediness. And neediness goes beyond just what you're saying. It's a vibe that you're giving off, that if she can sense that you need anything from her, if you need her validation, you need her acceptance, you need her approval, you need her gratification, you need her physical intimacy, if you need anything from that girl, even if you think you're hiding it, she's going to sense it, and she's going to either lose infatuation for you, or she's not going to be able to get infatuated with you in the first place.
These infatuation killers, I want to get a little bit deeper into a few of them. I don't want to spend the whole time going on to these, because I do want to get to the three ingredients and show you exactly how to use it. But what's really important about these infatuation killers is they're sort of the direct opposites of the ingredients we're going to be going over. And as you'll see, right, you'll see how they play into it all. And when you look at this list of these things that kill a girl's interest, a lot of it is counterintuitive, and a lot of it is like, so what does the word neediness mean, right? A lot of guys say, well, how do I know if you're acting needy? And Rob kind of said, when you need anything from her, it's neediness. But neediness, it exemplifies itself when a girl like you go out with her and you want to make sure she's having a good time, and you start saying, is everything okay? Do you like this place? You're exempling neediness. It's needing her approval. It's needing her validation. It's needing, maybe you're dating her or you've been dating her. And, I've had girls say they left their husband because he was too needy, because he always needed her to tell her that he loved her. She loved him. He was always being, I love you, because he wanted her to say it back. That's neediness, when you need something from her. Making her be the man. This is a sort of new one that I discovered, over the last couple of years doing private coaching, when I would walk through guys' issues and they would kind of tell me what was going on. And, here's an example of being, and I'm guilty of this. I can think of a girl that this happened to me 10 years ago, before I kind of knew this stuff. Was I drove her home. We got in front of her house, and it was like time to say goodnight. And I was like, I was too nervous to kiss her. So she actually leaned in and kissed me. And I was like, wow, she must really like me. She kissed me, and we had a nice goodnight kiss, and I never got another date from her because I made her be the man in that situation. You make a girl be the man if you make her choose the places you go to, if you make her be the assertive one, if you make her be the aggressive one, she's going to lose attraction for you. Same thing with the power, right? The power is all about, there's a saying, he who cares less holds the power. And if she cares less than you do, she knows she has the power. If she knows that you're not going to break up with her, in her mind, she's like, this guy would never break up with me. This guy would never leave me. She knows she has the power. And it is literally impossible for a girl to stay attracted to a guy when she knows she has the power. Impossible. There is a girl will never stay with a guy if she knows she has, unless she's one of those really just dominant personality types, like the 1 in 100 that you don't want to be with anyway, because she's going to boss you around, and she's just, I have friends who are with women like that, and you don't want to be with those kind of women.
Yeah, that's a point though. The power one's important, because that one's insidious, because a lot of guys think, to have the power in the relationship, we're advocating guys be these like muchacho, like, put a woman in her place, and we're not saying that at all. In fact, a lot of the times, in this day and age, men and women kind of start on equal footing, and it's these little insidious things, and they're so minor, but they start adding up and adding up and adding up, and then all of a sudden it's her sense of humor dominates. What she wants to talk about dominates. And again, we're going to get to the specific examples, in a moment, but the thing about when she has the power in the relationship, it's so insidious, and it can be hard to identify. It can be hard to even realize that she's the one with all the power in the relationship, because it was just these little things that built up over time that allowed her to have that sort of power position in the relationship.
Yeah, the worst thing that happens to a guy, and, I'm guilty of this, we're all guilty of this, is the girl actually does like us in the beginning, and we really like her, and we're like, I have this really intense feeling towards her. She must have the same feeling towards me. She told me she liked me, or she went home with me, or she slept with me. And then we just immediately go, okay, it's okay to just, I have to like let her know. It has to be, I can be like, I can do all these things I want to do. I can let my guard down. Like, letting your guard down is not like a bad thing, right? You don't want to be this guarded guy who's never able to be himself around women. That's not what we're recommending. In fact, one of the interesting things about the Scrambler, and this is sort of off topic, but the better you are with women, the less you have to actually consciously think about these things. It's kind of a fake it till you make it thing. Like Rob, at this point, me, I'm in a relationship now. Like with the relationships that we get in now, we don't specifically go, okay, I have to be less scarce. I have to be more scarce, right? But when you have a lot of options, you don't rush into a relationship because you know that there's other girls. So you're not like, oh, I have to hang out with her this weekend. If I don't hang out with her this weekend, another guy might come along. You don't have that scarcity mentality because in your mind, you're like, well, another girl might come along. So if I miss out, it's not a big deal. So a lot of it becomes more natural. But in the beginning, when you're in a drought maybe, or when things aren't going so good with you, you do have to kind of be conscious of this stuff. You have to be conscious of, wait a minute, I've just invited her to hang out 4 nights in a row. She's, it's becoming kind of predictable that I'm going to ask her to meet up after work. Every day after work, I text her the same thing. This is becoming predictable. And you kind of have to stop.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like you said, that we all go through periods where maybe we don't have a ton of options, but one thing I like to do is you can replace other things in your life to be an option. So if I know that, like, man, I don't have a lot going on in terms of my dating life, what I would do is I would go out, I would join a gym, I'd join some sort of club, do other stuff to make myself a little bit more scarce and a little bit less predictable. That's the thing, is a lot of these infatuation killers or infatuation extinguishers, they sort of play off each other, and they all sort of, and this is why they're all kind of subsumed by the three ingredients of infatuation, which we're about to get to. But what you have to understand is that, when you make yourself a little bit more scarce, you also get the side benefit of being less predictable. That's the thing. And you have the side benefit of being less needy. So all these sort of infatuation killers, the root cause of them all comes back to those three ingredients of infatuation.
Like we said, we're not going to dwell on the mistakes, but you want to keep them in mind. Another thing I want to say, right, is that in a lot of ways, it's not your fault. Up until now, you've had an excuse because media, women, and this is off topic, a funny, interesting thing is Rob and I, you might have seen some of our videos on Facebook, and people will leave comments on them. And, over and over again, I get comments like, why am I taking advice from these two guys? Like, shouldn't we be listening to women? These are guys saying this. And the problem is that either consciously or unconsciously, you have been listening to women. And women say one thing, but they're notoriously don't know what the hell they're talking about. Women will say, I just want a nice guy. I just want a guy who's loyal, who doesn't cheat. Women will say a lot of shit. But if you actually look at their track record of who they date, who they sleep with, it's never what they say they want. So, you can't really be blamed if you've been making these mistakes because the media, right? All these movies, whether it's because of, the feminist agenda out there, whatever, all the movies basically showed the guy like, getting down. Rob and I always reference the movie Say Anything, where the guy like, puts the boombox up, or it's always a guy kind of like selling himself, just doing this, and the girl falling for the nice guy or the nerd, even the Revenge of the Nerds, like the nerd guy gets the hot cheerleader. Like that shit does not happen in real, like it happens if the guy's playing, but not just because he's a good person. The hot cheerleader doesn't just go, he's such a nice person. He's got, you may get like, every once in a while, a girl may just be going through like I just want to bang a nice guy, but she's going to be bored. She gets bored with him, right? And the worst thing that happens is the nice guy who's in that position, and some girl comes along and bangs him, and he's like on the top of the world, but it turns out she was just getting her like, I just want to be with a nice guy for a night fix, and then she's like, I can't date this guy. He's too boring,
Well, it's a point to that, too. And this is something that I've been thinking about recently. I just want to make this point really quick. If you look at movies that are really popular with women today, movies that really sort of speak to that primal attraction, those primal urges. And a movie I always like to go back to is 50 Shades of Grey, right? And 50 Shades of Grey, that's sort of an archetype for a lot of these romance novels and even romantic comedies. But if you look at these movies and you look at the male character, the character that the woman wants to get, he does all the stuff we're gonna explain to you in The Scrambler up until the end. Because I feel like a lot of women's fantasies is that they want to tame the guy that seems untamable. They want to tame the guy that doesn't make all the mistakes we just listed. The guy who's unpredictable, the guy who has the power in the relationship. And women, but the thing is that what a lot of guys get wrong is that they skip right to the happy ending where the guy's all tamed and he's like this, with that one girl. And the thing is that what women love about these movies is the build up to that. They love watching this unpredictable, sort of, I hate to use the term, but like the quote unquote bad boy. And then it's like, at the ending, yeah, maybe that guy has, it's a happy ending. The guy changes, he settles down with this one girl, and he's predictable. He's a nice guy or whatever. But for like 90% of the movie, he's doing all the things we're about to teach you.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because I had that thought recently too. There's that thing like the bold move, where you got to show the girl that you really really like her. I first heard of it in the book The Art of Seduction, and I remember convincing myself years ago, I got to do the bold move, and I sent the girl the flowers at work, and as you've if you know my stuff, you know Rob's stuff, you know that we have a very negative image for you when it comes to sending a woman flowers at work. But the reason a bold move works, and the reason it works in these romantic comedies where you see like at the end of the comedy, you know, Matthew McConaughey's like climbing over a crowd and he's singing a song. It's because he was such a dick and he played the girl so that when he did it was really effective. Chances are, you know, you haven't been doing that. Chances are the girl just sees you as an average nice guy. That the difference, right, is that the bold move works if you just played the game so hard and then you got to like kind of show her. The bold move does not work coming from a position of weakness. It doesn't work when you're doing it because like a lot of guys use it, like a girl starts to slip away and they're like, oh, I got to do something bold. That's just going to push her further away, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So just wanted to clarify that. But, you know, we said it's not your fault. It's not your fault until it is, right? It becomes your fault now because you've heard this. If you're on our list, you've heard it. You had an excuse for a really long time. You don't really have an excuse anymore. You're fighting years of programming, true. And this is why you may have heard it and you might have slipped back into it. But eventually you got to stop making those mistakes. So there's a saying, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's really the position that you're in. You know, it's okay to fuck up once. But when you fuck up more than once, you got to take responsibility for it. And that's what this training's about. That's what we're going to be going over right now. That's why it's worth learning. When you meet that girl, you want to feel the certainty that you know how to seduce her. You know how to move her towards being your girlfriend. And if you fall for it, you don't want to fuck it up. I've seen too many guys. I fucked it up myself. I've seen too many guys fuck it up. You want to be in a position. You want that mental confidence of knowing that when that girl appears in your life, and maybe she's here already, maybe it's a girl you're dating right now, maybe it's a girl that you sit next to in class or you work with, or you don't want to fuck it up. You want that certainty that you can seduce her, and these 3 steps will give you that certainty. So let's get into it, right? So the way that I want you to visualize these 3 steps are of the combustion triangle. And what the combustion triangle is it's the 3 things that make fire. In order to create fire, you need 3 ingredients. You need the fuel, you need the heat, and you need the oxygen. And when you combine these 3 things, fire immediately happens. And that's the way I want you to look at the process of infatuation. It's combining 3 things. Infatuation immediately and naturally happens. It's not a cause and effect relationship. It's an emerging property. What I mean by that is a lot of guys think in order to get a girl infatuated with me, I have to do this one thing. I have to do this, this, and this. And a lot of times when you do that one thing, you come across as try hard. You wind up scaring her away. You wind up boring her, whatever. Because what it actually is, when a girl gets infatuated with you, the same thing as fire. It's that you put these 3 elements in place, and it happens naturally. So what are the 3 elements that create the combustion triangle of infatuation? Like I said, you got the fuel, the heat, and the oxygen. We are going to think of the fuel as validation. And we will discuss these things in detail in a minute. But validation is the fuel that keeps the fire going. Emotions are the heat, right? Emotions, the emotional intensity, that creates the heat. That creates all of that, that sort of roller coaster ride that a woman needs to go on. And the oxygen is the physical intimacy. And as you're going to see, without oxygen, if you take away the oxygen, the fire immediately goes out. And without physical intimacy, infatuation dies out. And we're going to discuss it. It's one of the main reasons why a girl may be into you, right? And you may hit it off and everything may be there. But if you wait too long to make your move, if you haven't made a move, her infatuation dies out and she goes from feeling really intense infatuation towards you to feeling almost a pity towards you.
Yeah, the thing is, sometimes this is hard to conceptualize. You, Bobby, me and you, we make these sort of models and analogies, but we have to understand that the reason that this is a little bit hard to conceptualize is because it's abstract, is because we're talking about emotions here. So, I really love this analogy of the combustion triangle because it just boils down, excuse the pun, it really boils down the essentials that you need to be doing every time that, and this is a process that you can repeat over and over again, but every time you're in that situation with that girl that you really like, you know, it just gives you the 3 essentials that have to be there in order to get that girl.
Yeah. And, you know, like I said, love is not a cause and effect relationship, meaning buying a girl flowers does not make her fall in love with you. Being funny does not make her fall in love with you. Dressing really good and, you know, getting a good haircut and a tan and looking really attractive does not make her fall in love with you. You have to put these things in place. And what's good about this is it actually makes it easier. This is the reason why average guys, non-really great looking guys, are able to get really great women, is because they're able to put these things in place, and all of a sudden the woman doesn't know why she's feeling these feelings for them. It just sort of happens. So let's get into step 1, which is to introduce the heat, the emotions. The way I want to describe this, and the way you want to start looking at this, and we kind of mentioned this earlier, is that it's already there. There's already these emotional drives that are hardwired to affect us, men and women, but women seem to be even more affected by these things than men are. And when you know that these are already there, you just have to figure out a way to tap yourself into them. So yeah, as we go through this, you're gonna notice that some of the mistakes that we talk about are directly related to these emotions we mentioned earlier. So for instance, one emotion that's already there, right, is scarce things are more valued and coveted. It's just the way it is. People buy things that are scarce. They stand in line for the new iPad or the new iPhone that's coming out because they know that it's gonna sell out fast. They collect things like stamps and baseball cards and gold coins, and the more scarce they are, the more valuable it is. And that scarcity thing is something we are hardwired to be attracted to fall for. So we are naturally conditioned to fall for scarce things. We want things that have limited, that's why there's a whole entire industry out there that like make things limited edition, because they know when something's limited, we want it more. And it's the same thing with people. You've probably noticed this, even amongst our friends, right? Like there could be a friend in your group that he doesn't show up as often as other people, but when he's around, you just coveted him more because of the scarcity of him. There's other natural instincts that we have, right? And this one, women are just they fall for it. We want what we can't have. It's just a human nature, right? It's that temptation that every guy has experienced dating a girl and just wanting to bang her sister or her best friend because she's the person we can't have the most. And whoever you can't have the most is who you tend to want the most. And also just when you want someone, if you start to realize you can't have them, your sort of attraction for them grows. Like if you like somebody and then you're like, and you initially thought, oh, like I can get this person, and then you go for it and you find out, oh wait, they're not as easy as I thought they were. You get a really strong attraction to them. Have you ever experienced that, Rob?
No, absolutely, and that's the thing. It's just so bizarre how these sort of unconscious things that we can't necessarily put our finger on, makes us feel such intense, strong, burning emotions.
Yeah, it's just hardwired into us. Another one of these things that are hardwired into us is we chase that which retreats from us. We chase that which retreats from us. And if you've ever dated a girl and you were dating her and all of a sudden, and I've had this experience where I've been dating a girl and I really wasn't even that into her. Like I was like, this girl's all right. She's, she's fun. And then all of a sudden she starts pulling away, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, like I can't lose this girl. And all of a sudden you start thinking she's the one, and you're like, what the hell am I doing? I wasn't even into this girl a week ago. And now that she's not answering my texts, all of a sudden I'm picturing the wedding ring I'm going to buy for her. Like, it's because we chase things that retreat from us. It's the same thing with anything, right? It's like if you go to the car salesmen use this a lot, right? You go to the car lot, you're trying to buy a car, and then all of a sudden they try to take it away from you, and they're like, you know what, somebody else is about to come on the lot, so we don't, and all of a sudden you're like, the thought of losing that car, now all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I'll sign the contract. Like we chase that which retreats from us.
Yeah, and it really is so powerful. I mean, the thing though is that what's important to point out is that we have to value what we're chasing first. You don't have to think. So a lot of times, guys be like, "Well, I was pushing her away," but it's like, yeah, but she was never really that into you to begin with. So you have to establish something that you have that value first. But once you have that value and you start taking a couple steps away, it's amazing how quickly girls will turn around and chase you.
Yeah, it's a good thing you brought that up because I had written an article a while ago about that, the secret to playing hard to get, and talked about the point that, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, it doesn't make any noise. And if you play hard to get, but a girl isn't paying attention to you, she wasn't, it's not going to matter to her, right? It's the same thing if you go to the car lot and you go there and the car salesman's like, oh, you can't buy this Hyundai, you're like, well, I didn't want it to begin with, So we chase that which retreats from us, but there's got to be interest there in it to begin with, right? Things that are slightly forbidden really, really attract us. That kind of ties into the idea of wanting to sleep with your girlfriend's friends or sisters or whatever. But it's also like it's one of the reasons why girls fall for a guy when they have sex with them fast, right? Because she's doing something forbidden. He's bringing this element of her out, this part of her personality, like she's doing something she knows she shouldn't be doing. And because of that, it creates this sort of emotional heat. One of the things, all these emotions that you're doing, all they're trying to do is create enough heat that you can throw some validation on it, right? And that's like throwing the fuel on it, and then add some oxygen, which is physical intimacy, and it sparks that infatuation. You're just trying to create all these things. And things that are slightly forbidden tend to create more heat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like when I say to a girl, if I'm on a date with a girl, sometimes I'll just say to her, but I'll be like, oh, I would totally make out with you right now, but blah, blah, blah thing, but there are kids watching, but we're in public, but whatever, excuse I want to give her. And by adding that restraint, it's amazing how much she'll fight it and be like, oh, we should do it anyway. Oh, we should go sneak in the back and do it. It's so funny. Like, even if the girl wasn't necessarily thinking about making out with me before I said that, by just adding that forbiddenness to the statement, it makes her want to do whatever I suggest so much more.
Yeah, it's in a negative, where I got screwed by this was I was fooling around with this girl that I worked with, and nobody at work knew what was going on, and it used to turn her on. We would go into the back room, we'd fool around, like she just loved this idea that nobody knew, like that we were like, sleeping together and stuff. And then I quit that job, and she like totally lost all interest. Like all the forbiddenness of it was like gone now, and she just totally lost interest in me.
That's funny.
Yeah. So another emotion that you can tap into is social approval. People are they're really, 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 like, whether you want to admit it or not, we're all affected by social approval. If somebody else accepts something, is attracted to something, wants something, we find ourselves wanting it. It's one of the reasons why I've always found the easiest place to get a woman attracted to me anyway. Like I said, we said earlier, Rob's really, really good at the bars. I've always been really good in social circles because I've known how to manipulate that idea of social approval. I've known how to get one girl into me so that she can spread the word about me. And like, I've known how to it's very manipulatable, and people manipulate this. Salesmen manipulate this to sell you shit. Everybody's using social approval again. Like all these things are being used against you. From salesmen, from advertising, all these things are being used. We're showing you how to use them to get a woman infatuated with you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. It's when you start seeing this in action and you understand. So I like what term I like to use for it is like seeing the wiring. It's exactly what to do next. That's why it's so easy for me to just understand how to attract a woman, because it's like I see all these sort of hidden. I hate to use the analogy, but it's almost like in the Matrix, like when you can see the fucking code. You can see the wiring, and it just makes things so much easier to attract that girl because if you're sort of going south, and you have this baseline of what you should be doing. Yeah.
So another natural emotion that people feel is jealousy. Jealousy is natural. And even when we're not really into someone, when we see them with somebody else, we feel a tinge of jealousy. I used to always confuse me, right? Like I back in the day, I'd be like friends with a girl, and I wasn't even into her. Like she'd just be some girl that was like a cool girl that I liked being friends with, but I never had any intention to hook up with. But the minute she started dating somebody else, I would feel like jealousy about it. I would always be like secretly hoping the guy like dumped her, and she, like it was just weird. I didn't understand it, but it's just natural. Like we just feel this jealousy when somebody has something, like even if it's not something we really wanted. It's just this weird thing. But here's something that's even more powerful, is that jealousy is most effective when our mind does most of the work, when it's implied instead of flaunted. This is one of the things, and Rob, I know you have, the picture example of how social media, sites like Facebook and stuff can be really, really powerful in eliciting jealousy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing. It's like sometimes the best way to elicit jealousy is not even to do it directly, having her see you with another hot girl. It's because, like, whatever girl she sees you with, the girl that she imagines is going to be hotter. So I kind of figured this out. All I would need to do is take a picture of, 2 drinks on a bar and check into some kind of swanky date spot on maybe on a time where I might be there with a girl. And if it's like a picture of a beer and an apple teeny or some kind of girly drink, immediately she's going to jump to that conclusion. Oh my God, he's with another girl. Oh, she must be so hot. Is she better looking than me? It's eliciting all those, ideas of competitiveness, and it's spinning those wheels in her head so fast. And the best part is you still even have the deniability of being like, what are you talking about? I was there with my buddy Steve. He likes apple teenies. What do you mean I was on a date? So yeah. That to me is the best way to do it, because, I paraded around the hot girls in front of other hot girls, try to get them jealous. And yeah, sometimes it'll initiate a chase or get the girls kind of working against each other. But sometimes I've had it backfire, and a girl will be like, she's not even that hot. And even if the girl is hot, in her mind, oh, well, I'm hotter, so what? Oh, well, he's just settling, So that's why I really started to use, especially on social media, that this sort of implied, what I like to call the implied woman.
Yeah. So the final natural emotion that you can tap into, and this one's a biggie. This one is huge. This one is a large part of why the Scrambler is so effective, and that is the need for completion. And I'm going to mess this word up, but they call it the Zeigenderic effect, because there was a study that showed that when something is stopped midway, human beings have a compulsion to know the ending. It's kind of like why I always say, if you start watching a movie, like if you're flipping channels, and the example I always give, because I get fooled by this shit every time, is one of those real crime stories will be on TV, and I'll watch 6 minutes of it, and I have to watch the ending because I need to know the end. I need to know what happened. It's also the reason why guys tend to get obsessed with a girl who was hard to figure out, right? If you ever had a girl that seemed really into you, and then she disappeared, and you don't know why, right? You didn't make any mistake, everything was going right, and then you can literally waste years thinking about it because of that need for completion. We always say, Rob and I always say, the point you want to be in with a girl is where she's on the computer Googling, what does it mean when, why did he do this? Because the reason, partly it's because you have her attention, but it's also because when there's an incomplete idea in a girl's mind, she becomes obsessed with figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We always want that completion. So when she's only getting part of the story, or there's that open loop, she's going to do everything in her power, and she's going to devote all of her mental energy into having that completion. It's just human nature,
So those are and there's more of them, but these were enough we wanted to give you now of emotions. These are the heat that gets the infatuation going, right? If you're dating somebody, or if you're in the friend zone with somebody, and you start making use of a few of these, social approval, you start letting her see, your friends see that other girls want to hang out with you. Maybe you do that picture Rob gave an example of, and on Facebook, and now she's feeling a little bit jealous. There's all these different things you can do to tap into these emotions. And what's great is a lot of times you're not doing anything directly to her. That's like we said, it's not a cause and effect. It's not like you're going to go to her and do something. There's things you're doing everywhere else that is tapping into that emotion that's already there inside her. I want to move on though, because we have a lot of stuff to go through still. The second step of the infatuation is introducing the fuel, and the fuel is the validation. And this is so important. And Rob mentioned earlier when he was talking about the mistakes guys make is being won over too easily. You got to understand that she's got to feel like she's winning you over. She wants to feel like you're peeling back the layer and you're becoming more attracted to her. That her efforts to seduce you are working. She wants to feel like she has to do things to seduce you, and that when she does them, they're working. Really, really, really important. Because most guys, if a girl's attractive, they just automatically are like, oh, this girl's girlfriend material. Like, she doesn't want that, because then she doesn't feel like you actually know her, you're attracted to her. She wants to feel like you decided she was girlfriend material the more you got to know her, because you found out she was more and more special, and you found out all these cool things about her, and now you've fallen for her. If it happens too fast, it comes across as phony.
And not only that, but if it happens too fast, it goes back to valuing things that we have to work for. If it happens too fast, it's like she didn't really put that much of herself into the relationship. She didn't invest her time, her energy, her emotions. You just immediately just jumped all over her because she was a hot girl, and she's not going to look at you like a man of value. She's going to look at you like, oh, this guy was easily won over. He's a chump.
Yeah. So there are three main areas that you need to validate in a woman. And to get that real infatuation, that obsession, you really need to do all three. We don't have time in this webinar to go through all three of them in detail, but I want to give you one. I want to talk about one of them in particular, and that's validating her femininity. That's when you validate her sex appeal, her role as a woman, her role as a cute girl. The best way that I can explain it is, as a guy, there are certain things that you do because you instinctively know that they're masculine traits. And around girls that you're into, you tend to exaggerate them. We like to lift heavy shit in front of a girl. We like the opportunity to kill the spider that she's afraid of. We want her to view us that way. Being funny is a masculine trait, right? That's one of the reasons we want to be funny around girls, is because it's a masculine trait. It's not a feminine trait. A girl who's like really, really funny, it doesn't make us want her more. It's a bonus and stuff, but it's not really it's not. Girls don't go out and try to be funny to impress a man, but men try to be funny to impress a girl because it's seen as a masculine trait, and it makes us feel masculine. And we want her to view us that way. So you got to understand that she's doing certain things that accentuate and exaggerate her femininity to you. First off, is she really scared of that spider that she's pretending to be? Or is she being extra girly to attract you?
Yeah, no, that's a really great point, because it's like when a girl's into a guy, she's going to accentuate that femininity, Like, here's the key. When she's doing it to win you over, you've got to recognize when she's doing that, and you have to sort of let her win. Give her one. This is where it's okay to show a little interest, or it's okay to sort of oblige her, because you're validating that feminine side of her that is allowing you to step into that man role, and it puts her into that more feminine role. And I'm not saying that in a degrading, sort of misogynist way. I'm saying that you're allowing her to give off that feminine vibe, that good feminine energy that you're feeding off of, because you have that positive masculine vibe.
Yeah, so, what happens in most cases is, I mentioned like being funny is a masculine trait, right? So when a girl is laughing at our jokes, we like it. We feel good, and we like her more for recognizing our humor. We start thinking, oh, she's a cool girl. She like gets my humor. She likes me, because we feel masculine. But you have to understand, that's you seeking validation. When we're doing that, that's us wanting validation from her, and we keep doing it because we want more and more validation. So we try to be funnier, and we think that that's making her fall for us. But all that's really doing is, yes, it's giving one. You always look at the femininity, masculinity as a yin and a yang, and you can put your masculinity out there, and she can respond to it by laughing at your jokes and showing you, appreciating her. But you also have to be recognizing what she's doing and validating that, right? Because when we validate her and we validate the wrong things, the things she doesn't give a shit about, we tell her how much we like her, how pretty she is, or whatever. That's great and all, but meanwhile, if she's actively doing stuff to seduce us and we miss it, everything feels fake to her, right? The way I think of it like this, right? Here's a way to imagine that you're making jokes all night and the girl's not laughing at them, right? She's kind of like not getting your jokes, right? But then she tells you how much she likes you. Like there's a disconnect there. It just doesn't feel genuine. You're like, wait a minute, like what's going on there? Like you really you weren't even. I was. And that's what happened with guys. Girls are doing all these things. They're trying to do things. You're missing them, and then you're going, "Oh, I really like you," or "You're so hot." And meanwhile, you didn't pick up on any of the signs she was giving you. So, how do most guys get won over? Through neediness. When she does stuff that should push you, and you got to pay attention to what I'm saying here is. A girl wants to win you over by putting work in, right? She wants to win you over by painting her toenails real sexy, for being extra feminine, from being cute around you, from accentuating her femininity. That's how she wants to win you over. When she does those things, she wants to sense you're getting more attracted to her. But what really happens in most relationships is you become more attracted to her when she does things that push you away. When she doesn't answer your text, the next time you see her, you're more into her, right? When she can't hang out for a few days, when you see her, you're more into her. So it's this weird thing going on with her that like she's doing things that should actually make you not into her, yet they're making you more into her. And meanwhile, the other things you're missing, right? As a girl, what she wants to feel is she wants to feel like she's fun. All girls want to feel like they're fun to be around. All girls want to feel sexy, and all girls want to be seen as being sort of adorable by you. Now, when you validate other areas of her, the other areas that Rob and I, talk about we call it the validation triad, it might be other things like her creativity or her maternal instincts or whatever. But validating her femininity, things like fun, sexy, adorable, that's how she wants to see herself.
All right, Bobby, I just want to point out something really quick, though. As you're going through that list and you're explaining, validating her, her feminine side and validating the sort of ideal image of herself, I do want to make the distinction that when a girl acts like a bitch or if she acts indifferent or even if she's acting a little boring, you don't want to show her that you're into her at that point. Though, during the low points, you don't want to validate the low points because that's when she's going to lose interest for you.
So the other two areas, which are part of what Rob and I call the validation triad, are her social self and her ideal self. And really, in a lot of ways, if you can validate a girl's ideal self, she's really just putty in your hands. Now, we don't have time to get into those two areas right now because we want to talk about the next element of the combustion triangle that creates infatuation, which is the oxygen. And as we said earlier, the oxygen is the physical intimacy, the sex, the kissing, the touching, all of those things need to be there. And here's why it's so powerful, right? Intimacy, think about when you hug somebody long enough. What happens is oxytocin kicks in and you'll begin to have feelings for them. It's just you can't help but happen. Oxytocin, they call it like the cuddle hormone. When you're touching somebody enough, these emotions come out, right? And you attach those emotions to that person. This is why we always say, the sooner you have sex with her, the more emotion she's going to feel for you. Because when you're laying in bed with her, especially if she stays the night and you guys are cuddling the next morning, all those oxytocin chemicals are flooding her brain and she's associating them to you. What does this mean about physical intimacy and the oxygen? Don't be intimidated. You don't have to be the best she's ever had in bed, but you do need to abide by a few rules. First off, you need to be sexually dominant. You need to make it happen. You need to be consumed with sexual desire for you. Would you agree with that, Rob?
No, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is that a lot of guys think, oh, does penis size matter? I'm a little inexperienced sexually, and none of that stuff really matters. Like, what most guys don't understand about being good in bed or giving a girl good sex, it's more about what you're doing leading up to that. It's more about how she feels about you, and specifically how she feels about you in that moment, that's going to lead to really great sex. I mean, for guys who are in relationships or whatever, sometimes the best sex you have with your girlfriend is when you guys are both pissed at each other. You know, when that makeup sex, the reason that makeup sex is so notoriously good is because of the buildup that comes before it. And we're not necessarily saying to get a girl pissed off. I mean, that's not part of what we're doing here, but that's just an example of how the emotions leading up to the sex is what really makes it good or bad. And the actual mechanics or, size doesn't necessarily matter as much as most guys think it does.
Yeah, it doesn't. We're not going to give you a full lesson right now in, being the best in bed. But I will tell you that being dominant, right, taking charge, not making her be the man, being dominant, not dominant in the kinky, make her kiss your feet and lay on the floor and pee on her dominant. Unless you're into that. But I just mean dominant, like taking control, making it happen, right? Like if you go on a date with a girl, you want to be the kind of guy who's able to get the kiss, who's able to invite her back, at least attempt to get her back. You also want to be consumed with sexual desire for her. A lot of guys are like almost embarrassed to, when they start sleeping with a girl. I had a coaching client the other day who was like, I sleep with her like once a week, and I go, have you ever just like contacted her on like a Tuesday night and just told her how bad you need to fuck her and you want to come over? He's like, oh, he's like, no, I feel like that would be disrespectful because I know she has work in the morning on I'm like, but even if she says no, to get like, there's got to be that she wants to know that you're just like consumed with the sexual desire for her. Now this is true, after you're like, you don't do that to a girl you haven't slept with yet, but. That's it. You want, point being, you want to get into these sexual relationships fast. One of the reasons girls fall for the, I know we both hate the word bad boy, but one of the reasons girls fall for the bad boy and not her like male friend, the guy who she's like perfect for, is because she's fucking the bad boy. So she's becoming attached to him because he's the one that is touching her and she's releasing all this oxytocin chemicals around and she's having orgasms and stuff. So she's falling for him. Meanwhile, the friend guy who she has the same sense of humor and they like all the same shit, she doesn't have any of that feeling for him because there's no oxygen there. The friend, maybe at one point she did feel attracted to him, but when he didn't make his move, it fizzled out. There's keys to getting intimate fast, and I want to kind of let you take over a little bit, Rob, and just kind of give some things you think are important in terms of getting intimate fast with a girl.
All right. Well, I have to start off. Anytime we talk about intimacy, especially with a girl that you haven't been intimate with previously, the cardinal rule is that it's always better to go for it and to get. And I'm going to say rejected, but I don't even like using that word. I like to think of it as being prolonged, because a lot of the times when guys think they're getting rejected, they're really not. The girl's just not comfortable yet, and that's totally fine. But, the guy shouldn't internalize. That's why, I always have to qualify that word rejected. But let's just, for simplicity, I'll use the word rejected here. It's always better to go for it and get rejected than not go for it at all. And that really is so important. When you go for it, you're demonstrating masculinity, and that's attractive. That's what women want to see. That's being the fucking man. Even if she turns her cheek when you go for the kiss, she's going to look back at you, or even if she's going to walk away from that interaction feeling more attracted to you because the sexual tension has gone up. And a little secret that I kind of figured out over the years was if I was on a date and I went to kiss a girl and she turned her cheek, but she didn't move. She like wasn't put off by it. She continued to sit there and to, engage with me. Almost 100% of the time, I would say 98, 99% of the time, that girl's attraction for me was only increasing because just now I planted that thought in her head. Even though she wasn't comfortable yet kissing me, because I didn't act like a needy chump or I didn't keep trying, because like there's two things that guys either do. They either don't read the signal and they keep trying, or they completely get into their head. They're like, oh, she rejected me, she doesn't like me, all is lost, and they get all upset. And the real sweet spot is hitting a happy medium where you either just make a quick joke about it or you just keep, talking about whatever you're talking about and you don't let it bother you. And if you can do that, her attraction is going to skyrocket for you. So that's the first point I want to make on a key to getting intimate fast. And then I do want to point this out that on the other hand, if she was expecting you to kiss her and you didn't, I mean, it's like you look so weak, you look so inexperienced, and you look so passive that she can't help but to lose attraction for you because you're not acting like a man. You're acting like a little scared little boy who's afraid to kiss a girl or afraid to make a move. Physical moves simply jumpstart attraction in a woman. There's no way. I mean, just think about it. I mean, so many guys are afraid to do this, and once you get over that fear, it's almost like unlocking this like cheat code to getting girls attracted to you fast. And all the guys I know who are really good with women, they all have said the exact same thing, that physical intimacy is an essential ingredient to getting things off on the right foot and to keeping, into building a really great foundation with a girl, whether you want to have a one-night stand with her or if you want to like get married to this girl and have, the 2.5 children with the white picket fence. You have to be comfortable making that physical move on her. Because, I mean, again, and Bob, you talked about the sort of the neurology here that, touching releases oxytocin. And, I was a bio major in college, so I know all about that. And, I mean, neurotransmitters are so powerful. And it's like, this is, like I said, this is almost like a cheat code to unlocking these neurotransmitters in her brain. Like, Bob, you pointed out the cuddle hormone. It just permeates these feelings of devotion towards you.
Yeah, so you want to just give a couple quick ways of just simple ways, maybe to initiate touching on a date. Let's just leave them. Let's say that a guy's about to go out on a date tonight, first date with a girl. How can he initiate some touching?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the first thing is you don't want to go all in too early. I mean, again, we're talking about physical intimacy, but we're not saying you have to be some kind of like barbarian or caveman. So you want to start small. It's something as simple as a high five. Oh, you like that? Oh my God, give you a high five. And then the thing is though, is that you don't high five, like whenever you're shaking hands with a girl or high fiving a girl that you're attracted to, you're not doing it like business as usual or as if you're high fiving one of your buddies. You're doing it in a way that's going to get the most oxytocin, most bang for your buck. So when I high five a girl, I'll wrap my fingers around her fingers, and shake her hand a little bit, and then I'll pull it away. Or if I'm going to shake a girl's hand, I'll maybe turn her hand over a little bit and hold the handshake, maybe a second or two longer than I would if I was shaking, some person I was meeting for a business purpose's hand or whatever. So because the thing is that you want these touches to be meaningful. Every time you touch a girl, even if it's something as innocuous as a high five, you want it to be meaningful. So that's the way you want to start it off. For me, I usually like to get a couple high fives in, maybe even a hug. Sometimes I'll even push a girl away, obviously in a joking fashion. But if she says something that, teases me a little bit, I'll be like, get out of here. And I'll kind of put my hand on her shoulder. But again, they're always meaningful touches. It's not like I'm just pushing her away like I kind of like punch one of my buddies in the arm. It's like when I'm touching her, I might hold her shoulder just for an extra second. Not anything that's creepy, not anything that's going to be weird, but just a little bit more than I would normally do. And then as the date goes on, you want to keep intensifying that touching, holding hands, running one finger up and down. If you turn a girl's arm over, on the underside of your arm, and you do this to yourself right now, you have all these sort of nerve endings that when you like run your finger lightly over like the underside of your forearm, you can feel it. It feels good. So you want to be doing that. The inside of a girl's elbow, moving your finger up. That's also, there's a lot of like pleasure, nerve endings in there. So these light touches, and then you want this to keep building. I always look at it like it's like a snowball, or it's like Bobby, me and you use the analogy a lot, like a thermostat. You're slowly dialing up the thermostat because she's not a dude. I mean, you might just love if she showed up and she immediately grabbed your dick. And I mean, for most guys, we wouldn't complain about that. But women are not like that. It's not like a light switch where you just turn it on and off. For a woman, physical intimacy, even though we want it to be fast, we also want to do it in a way that preserves her sort of comfort level to make sure that she's enjoying it just as much as you're enjoying it. So you want to do it sort of gradually, and like I said, like by starting with high fives, starting with hugs, playful pushes, then, escalating it to maybe holding hands a little bit, sort of caressing her arm a little bit. And then from there, a lot of the times I like to move into like, going for the kiss, going for, some more sexually charged sort of touching. And the other thing too is that even though we are sort of doing this gradually, sometimes I do like to be a little jerky. If a girl will say something kind of sexually charged, like I remember one time a girl said to me on a date that I thought was kind of, the date was going it was sort of like a boring date. I thought this girl was kind of Manila. And then all of a sudden she said, "Oh, I have a great ass." I said, "Oh, turn around, let me see." And and she complied. She got up, she turned around, and then I was like, "Oh wait, I have to do the Rob ass smacking test to see if you really have a great ass." And I smacked her ass and stuff like that. Like that sort of came out of left field, but at the same time, sometimes adding in some of those spikes is also a good idea. But again, you want to be careful with that. You want to maybe start small, and then when you get more comfortable, adding in some of the more risque sort of touching early on.
It just elicits something. I remember being out with a group of guys and girls that I was friends with and knew, and one of the girls there who was kind of cute, but I never really I wasn't really that into her. We're out at the bar and we were like going from one bar to the next, and it was like kind of cold, and she like kind of took me and she she started holding my hand and kind of like cuddling up to me on the way. And this was just a girl who I like never really was, and I just felt myself becoming attracted. I was like, oh wow, because our buddy Chris says there's a natural sexual tension that exists between men and women, and you just got to tap into it. And touching is the easiest way to tap into it. Obviously, disclaimer: you don't want to be the creepy guy, but you do want to find ways to do it. Okay, so you can see how adding in these three elements can be so effective. It's sort of like a tornado coming at her, and she gets sucked up in it, right? Before she has time to think. All these different emotions, everything you're doing, you're tapping into things that are already there, right? You're tapping into this sexual desire or sexual chemistry that's already between men and women. You're tapping into these emotional needs. You're tapping into her own desire to be validated. We all crave validation. So these aren't things you have to do. You're tapping into things that are already there. Now, what I want you to do for a minute to really solidify this is to think about the last girl you really fell for. How much did the heat of emotions play into it? How many of the natural desires did she tap into? I can almost bet that the Zeigenderic effect played a part, right? The confusion, the incompletion, trying to figure things out. I guarantee that was there. In what ways did she validate you? How did she throw fuel on it? Guys are validated differently than women. For a woman, she has to make us feel funny, strong, successful. In what ways did she make you feel that way around her? Sometimes, as a guy, because part of feeling masculine is, being the guy with the hot woman makes us feel masculine. So sometimes a woman has a capability to validate us just by being around us and showing interest in us because she's an attractive woman. It gives us validation. Women don't have that same key. They need to be validated in a different sort of way. Now, in some cases, this girl that you infatuated with, in some cases, the oxygen was missing. The intimacy, wasn't there. And in a lot of ways, you're kind of lucky if that's the case, because that's called a crush. And a crush can be hard, but not nearly as hard as when you've gotten intimate with a girl a little and then she disappears. That's when it's like soul crushing, when that oxytocin did play out and you did kiss her and make out with her and then she disappears. That's when your little crush turns into that full-blown infatuation. So looking back at one of your relationships, can you see how this played out? In the beginning, I made a point that you have had an excuse up until this point to mess this up. But that excuse is over, especially after listening to this. It's time to take responsibility. Remember, though, that you're battling years of conditioning. That little voice in your head telling you that it's okay, just text her again, or that urge to be nice or to be needy or whatever. The good news is, though, is that when you can overcome that conditioning, when you can act counterintuitively, it's so interesting to a girl. It's so effective because she doesn't understand it. She can't figure it out. And remember, as soon as a girl figures you out, it's over. Well, the opposite is also true. When a girl can't figure you out, she starts chasing you. Now, you've sat through this training. You know that there are really only 3 ingredients to getting that girl infatuated with you, And you know that once activated, girls are powerless against them. So you sat through this training, you know that there really are only 3 ingredients to getting a girl infatuated with you, and you know that once activated, girls are powerless against them. That's why Rob and I have decided to offer something that we've never done publicly before. We want to work with you one-on-one. We've put together 2 different coaching packages to work with us over the phone in a one-on-one coaching session. Because here's the deal. You are the only person who can get in your own way. And sometimes, as much as you know the material, you need a coach to keep you on track and to help you stick to the strategy. We've seen this for years with guys where they know what to do, but then the minute they like a girl, they revert back to their old ways, or they convince themselves that she's different. And just being able to get on a session with us completely gets you back in the right frame of mind. So if you'd like to work with us beginning to end, to turn yourself into a piece of string that girls can't help but chase, become a puzzle that she's obsessed with solving, completely master your own emotions, become unbreakable around any woman, make her fall in love with you, sleep with you, and beg to be your girlfriend, then we're going to drill into you the attitude and behaviors that make the scrambler work. The scrambler is basically the roadmap for initiating this feeling in a girl of infatuation, lust, desire, obsession, where she focuses all her attention on you. Now, there's a certain recipe. That's where you follow it, and girls can't help but fall for you. We've been coaching this now for privately since 2012 and publicly since 2014, and we've had thousands of cases of the scrambler just seducing girls. Now, since 2014, the amount of private clients that have hired to teach us the scrambler has surged one-on-one. And because of that, we've been able to continually improve it. We've been able to see it being played out, to make adjustments, and ultimately to make it more effective. So if you want to finally get out of the friend zone for good, have choice and control of your dating life, have girls chasing you, and get laid like crazy, then this coaching's specifically for you. Here's how we'll do it. You'll get on the phone with either Rob or I, and we'll come up with a strategy for you. Now, we can go as deep as you want. If you have text exchanges with girls that you want us to go through and point out where you're making mistakes and how you can improve your text messages, that's something that Rob is a master at. If you have a specific scenario of you don't know what you're doing wrong or why a woman's losing interest, we can together create a strategy to get her back interested in you. If you have a female friend that you've been friends with for a while and you want to get out of the friend zone, we can create the strategy together for how to do that. If you just don't know how to talk to girls and you want to practice your flirting and get some feedback on your conversation skills, we can do that too. We can analyze any situation and we can map out a plan step by step. We walk you through the plan to seduce any girl you're interested in. Because here's the thing, there's a whole bunch of clues that most guys miss. And when you get to talk to us and explain the situation, we can find the blind spots that you are not seeing. I know this because for the past couple of years, I get on the phone with a guy, he gives me a situation, and it instantly becomes obvious to me as to what he has to do next. But he's clueless, right? The clues are there, and Rob and I will show you how to spot them and then exactly what to do with them once you have them. What's really cool about these coaching sessions is that we'll create a blueprint together so that by the time the session ends, whatever girl you have in your mind right now, you'll have a proven step-by-step plan to seduce her. Now, here's the deal. You can register for coaching sessions in one of 2 packages. The silver package, which is 1 session, which includes 1 month of email follow-ups, or the gold session, which are 3 sessions that really allow you to not only get your strategy, but to have Rob or I there with you to help you pull it off. There's a link below that'll take you to both packages. A silver package is a one-time payment of $250, and a gold package is a one-time payment of $650. Let me walk you through the checkout process to show you exactly how it works. All right, so this is how it works. You'll see the order page here. You just complete your order, then you'll be immediately taken to this page here, some more information from Rob about it if you haven't watched this video. You'll want to save this page because your call-in and access number will be here. Then you'll just go to Book Now, and on this page, you'll see the options that we have available for time slots. Then when you click a time slot, You'll be then asked to fill in your name, your email, some information about you, the situation you want to work on, the outcome that you want, and then your session will be set up. All you have to do is show up for the call with as much detail as you want. Like I said, if you want us to review texts or anything, you can have them on the call. You can send them before the call as well. No hard sell here. We don't have hundreds of spots to sell. We only have a few spaces. If the link is active, it means we have sessions available. They will come and go. So if the link is closed now, check back at another time. So if you think this be a game changer, then click the link, go to the order page, register for the coaching, and we'll send you an email with all the details. Listen, I think you know whether or not you need coaching, and you can look around and see if you're stuck in a place, making the same mistakes over and over, losing the girls you really like. If the answer is yes, let us change that for you. Click the link, get started with the coaching now.